Yesterday I bought an apartment in Romania in the capital city of Bucharest, and it is a new building. You have an apartment on the 5th floor and you have a nice underground parking. All in all, I got it at a good price, and because of the rising inflation right now, that was pretty much a no-brainer for me, because if you have some money lying in your bank account and you can buy an apartment directly in cash without taking any kind of loan whatsoever, then it always makes more sense to actually invest it somewhere than just leave it in the bank account. After I bought the apartment, I was talking to a few people in Romania, in Bucharest, if they also own apartments or something, and most of the people that I talked to actually own apartments in Romania, and many of them 2 or sometimes 3, especially like when they're in some kind of well-off jobs. So when I was then further on going to the internet and taking a look at the home ownership rates, you can see here that on the Wikipedia page, you have countries by home ownership rate. Romania ranks at number 1. And this is home ownership in the world. And India, the country I come from, it is at 86.6%. Romania is at 96.1%. Now, I know from my culture that in India, if you own a house, that is seen as something very important and something that is going to let you live in peace when you are retiring, when you are old, when you don't have the means to earn a living, or like maybe you are not able to earn the same kind of money that you could earn right now when you're actually working. That is considered a very important thing, and the same is essentially also considered in Romania. In Romania, most of the people see the properties as an important investment, and especially after the fall of the communist rule, because what you have to keep in mind is many other countries, they did not really suffer through the communist and socialist times for a longer duration, but the Eastern European countries, the countries which were a part of the Soviet Union, for them that experience was very painful. Now again, 70% of the apartments in Romania were owned by the state, and when the state started selling after the fall of the government, most of the Romanians were able to get the houses at a very cheap price, and this is also the reason why you see the percentage is so high. Now, are the houses, most of the houses or apartments in the best condition? Not exactly. Like if you go into the main city or something, you will see many of the buildings which are essentially run down, and many of them have also fractures because of earthquakes and things like that, but they just still own it. And I can understand, because the fall was in 1990. So maybe this 20-year period hasn't changed much. Maybe things change in the future because Romania is also having a declining population. But on the other hand, if you take a look at Germany, you have to actually scroll down at the bottom of the list. So this is at the bottom, you have North Korea, then you have Fiji, Nigeria, United Arab Emirates, Switzerland, East Timor, and Germany. So essentially in the developed world, if you talk about that, you just have UAE, Switzerland, and Germany. And Germany is the 3rd last in the world if you talk about home ownership rates. Then again, to understand this, I dug a bit further to see what kind of reasons people are giving about this. So I came across this article which was from Deutsche Bundesbank, which is the Federal Bank of Germany, something like that. So here, if you take a look at the reasons that they're providing. So here they said, to better understand why home ownership is so low in Germany, we analyze the role of housing policies that differ in particular ways from those in other countries. Germany has high transfer taxes on buying real estate, no mortgage interest tax reductions for owner-occupiers, and a social housing sector with broad eligibility requirements. So the main thing is that in Germany, you essentially have a lot more additional costs when you are buying something. And because many of these houses that you see in Germany and many apartments are owned by different kind of cooperatives. For example, the previous apartment where we were living in Hamburg, that was owned by a organization called Saga GWG or SAGA GWG, and they owned a lot of different kind of apartments, and these were essentially social apartments. So people who were having lesser income were allowed to live there. At that time, when we started renting the apartment, our salary was essentially very low. Alina was making 550 euros from her vocational training. I was making, I think, like 450 euros I was doing the job for, but because I was in tax class 5, I was generally just getting 300 euros per month. And then she would also get some kind of Kindergeld, which is a support that state does till you are still in your studies, I think till the age of 25 or something. So she was getting around 200 euros there. So with all of these things combined, you see, like we were able to have around 1050 euros, but from that 550 euros would actually go away directly in the apartment. Then we would have our grocery costs and things like that, and in the end there would actually, many months there would be like very little left. 100 euros, 200 euros or something like that. So in those kind of scenarios, it is actually very nice that like people who are also having lower income can live in these social apartments. But the problem comes that the number of the social apartments or the social these residences are very, very limited. And the German government has not been making the investment in real estate very feasible or very attractive for many builders, because there are a lot of like permits involved. There are always protests against any kind of like new buildings that are being built and so on because of environmental concerns and things like that. While on the other hand, the same people who are complaining about environment will also complain about that they are not able to have cheap places to live in. This is causing a problem of housing market in Germany, and that you must have experienced too when you are looking for accommodations in Germany in one city or the next. So this is very interesting. And also about the transfer taxes that they're talking about. In German, there's the term called Grunderwerbsteuer. So you can read about this, and this is essentially when you are selling an apartment or a house from one person to the other person, you have to essentially pay these taxes, and these taxes could be actually decent. So around like 5% or something. If you're buying something for 1 million euros or €500,000 or something, then you essentially can end up paying 50,000 to 25,000 euros just in taxes, so that you're able to get that property from the previous person to yourself. And this is again not a less amount for most of the people, where sometimes the yearly salary of some people would be just around like 25,000 or something, and they're getting the loan for the rest of the amount. And this is causing some problems, which is something that Germany has to focus on. I was seeing in the recent elections there was a lot of talk about this, that instead of enteignen, so essentially there's a huge article about this. I think maybe I will make a separate video about this, Deutsche Bundesbank enteignen. So the people of Berlin was saying that there are these big companies who are owning all of these apartments. We want to snatch the apartments back to us, so that it's like social apartments and things like that. But again, the state has to pay those companies money. So you have paid those companies money, but you again have not built a single unit of new residences, so that the prices can come a bit down, which is a very interesting thing. I'll make a video about that separately, but I think this is the problem that Germany is facing right now. Yes, it is nice that people are able to have these kind of social residences, but the number of people who can actually live inside that is very, very less, because the supply of apartments is less. And that is one place where Germany definitely has to focus on. Whereas in Romania, you generally have banks giving out easy loans for buying apartments and things like that. A lot of people have 2 or 3 apartments, especially in the newer residential buildings and so on. And overall, the prices are also not bad, because the supply is actually very nice. You have a lot of high-rise buildings building up, and you can get a decent studio apartment for just like 100,000 euros with parking and everything included. And also, if you're buying via a company, you don't have to pay any VAT on top of it, which is very nice. And also the same thing, if you buy a car via your company, you don't have to pay any VAT on top of that either. So the entrepreneurial side in Romania is actually very, very strong. The kind of tax incentives that they have for people and everything is very nice. Now in Germany, if you compare that, I will show you the real estate market in Germany and in Hamburg essentially. And if you see Eigentumswohnung, so this is, the apartments that you want to buy and so on, you will see, okay, Bharat, why are you saying that the apartments are so expensive? When I see it's just for 77,500 euros. Now, again, very, very important thing that you have to remember, and this was one mistake that we were about to do in Germany. We were about to buy an apartment which was already rented out to somebody, and we would have bought that as a Kapitalanlage, or how do I say it, like, a capital investment, so that you're not allowed to live in that house, but you're just buying it so that you can get the rent out of it. So this is something which is not relevant for many people. So you have to be very careful, and you also have to keep in mind that as soon as you become the owner of that particular apartment, all of the costs related to you renting that place to somebody else, let's say the person is renting and his system gets screwed up, heating has to be replaced, or there's some problem with plumbing and so on. So all of those costs directly come to you. So be careful when you are shopping for real estate in Germany, because these kind of things can come across. Many of these are also called Zwangsversteigerung. So these are the things which are being sold off by the banks. So you essentially have to make auctions for these kind of things, but you're not allowed to enter inside. So very, very careful when you're buying an apartment in Germany. It's just such a crazy kind of research that has to go inside. And the main thumb of rule I can give you is that if you're going for anything below 180,000 or 200,000 euros, the chances that you're going to get anything decent, especially in the outskirts even of the main cities, it is very, very less. So go inside, talk to some good real estate agents, and they're going to help you with all of these things. But let's say even if you're getting an apartment and you're getting the apartment for 200,000 euros or something. So for 200,000 euros, you see, you will get something like 41 square meters, 50 square meters, things like that. And when you will essentially turn around and you will start renting it out, the rent that you will get for that is going to be less. And these you can see directly also in these kind of places. So this is Hafen City. Again, it's one of the more central areas. So I wouldn't really say that this is more of a representative, but for example, you can take a look at something like Niendorf. So this is the place what you should be seeing. For example, here 500 euros per month, and you have 40 square meters and 2-room apartment. So these are the more representative things. That is, like, you can still get the rents generally for cheaper prices in the outskirts of the city, but the prices of the houses are still very high because the supply of the houses is less. And this is the reason why it is very easy for many of the poor countries. For example, you can see in the list essentially, Romania is essentially, like, we can call it a poor country. Hungary, Slovakia, Lithuania, Cuba, Vietnam, Croatia, China isn't. That's an interesting case, and I will make a separate video about it. But like most of the countries that you will see are generally like countries which are still developing, do not have such a strong economy, but they still have a lot of home ownership rates, because people know that if they're able to get an apartment for themselves for the older age, at least they do not have to rely on the social system, because the social system in most of these countries does not exist. In Germany, like, when you are not making any kind of money and so on, you can still rely on the state. Okay, I'm still going to get enough money so that I can run my expenses and so on. But in these countries, you will not have that kind of issue. That is why most of the people will try to get an apartment or a house when they are already in their working years. Whereas in Germany, that is not a need at all, because the social apartments are pretty cheap, they're pretty affordable, and many times it might make more sense in Germany for you to rent an apartment than to buy an apartment. So there are so many like different cases about it. If you have any kind of questions whatsoever about this, you can let me know in the comment section below. I think this is a very interesting topic for discussion, so I would definitely look forward to your comment, and I will pick some of the comments and make a video about it so that we can continue this discussion further. Because right now we have an apartment in Denmark, we have an apartment in Romania, but we haven't bought an apartment in Germany because we just do not see the value for our money. We can get better places in other countries than we can get in Germany. But again, if you're just thinking about living in Germany, then your priority becomes that you have to see what are going to be the better places or what are going to be the better deals for you when you're living in Germany, and not that you're just like spending your money like crazy. So something you should keep in mind. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.